Well, as mentioned, I just finished building a model die-casting Pullman Palace Observation car, so I thought I'd share a little bit of what I did here. I picked this up at the Springfield show in January, and it came pre-painted and lettered for the New York Central and Hudson River Railroad, so I just had to have it. It fits in perfectly with what I want to do with the Ulster and Delaware layout that I'm building. The Ulster and Delaware Railroad, a lot of its traffic was summer passengers for about 3 or 4 months in the summer, and to accommodate that traffic they leased and rented equipment from the New York Central and the Pullman Company, so this fits in perfectly with what I want to do. In terms of my modifications to the kit, I used only 2 truss rods on the outboard side. That was just looking at prototype photos. I noticed that is frequently the case. I assume that's because there's something of a steel center sill. So there are only 2 truss rods, and they are fishline truss rods, a la Ray Breyer. Rearrange the tanks and battery boxes so they make a little more sense. To build it according to the directions, they would have you put battery boxes right behind truss rods so they couldn't even open, which seems kind of silly. On the ends, I added a diaphragm by American Limited, a gate, and also there's a bulkhead in there. Just to fill that out. I also put in room dividers where the bathrooms would be. I imagine there are restrooms here, and I'm imagining that this is a buffet parlor observation car, so the kitchen would be in here, and there are bulkheads in there. That breaks up the interior a little bit. Otherwise, it's just a hollow box with windows, and you can see all the way through it from both ends and sides. So that breaks it up a bit. And then on the observation end, I added a stamped brass railing, or etched brass railing, excuse me, from Classic Miniatures, now marketed by Trout Creek Engineering. I also colored the awning. You cut that out from the directions, and it's just black and white, but I took a red marker and made it black and red, a little more colorful. I also added air signal and steam lines to the ends by Calscale, and made a modification to the way the trucks are mounted as well to make them look, I think, a little more prototypical. If you build it according to the directions, the trucks end up rather inboard from the ends, which I think looks a little odd. It doesn't look the way it should, just looking from prototype photos. The truck should be closer right up against the steps here. So the directions would have you mount the trucks in that hole oriented this way. But I found if you turn the truck around and mount it in that hole, it ends up 18 inches closer to the end with the frame of the truck right up against the steps, but still with enough room to swing. So I mounted them that way, and I also wanted to include the truck-mounted couplers rather than mount them on the body, and so that means you have to accommodate this little clip spring by carving out some room for that spring to seat properly in this area here. That's the only modification you need to make to the truck. And even though I added all these steam and air and signal lines on the end, which are just AC'd on there, there's still enough room for the truck to swing and the coupler to swing. And I have run this through 24-inch radius S-curves coupled to other passenger cars, and it stays coupled and tracks perfectly. And the spring clip keeps the coupler mounted or centered when you're on straight track. For the couplers, I used Cady scale head couplers on this end where the diaphragm is. I used the long center set shank to get the coupler face up right underneath the diaphragm. And on the other end, I used the short center set shank to get the coupler oriented properly there underneath the observation end, because there is no diaphragm. And that all works out very well. One last note. When you're weathering, of course, it's not like weathering a freight car, because you have to pay attention to the fact that there is glazing. So here's the sequence that I chose. I first glazed the clear story with that green cellophane they provide. Then weathered the roof with chalk dust, and then the sides and the roof with airbrush, very lightly, just enough to just give it a hint of dusting. And then set all that with dull coat, then glazed the windows. Of course, if you try to glaze the windows first and then add the weathering or dull coat, you're gonna frost the windows. But I did choose to add the green cellophane up there in the clear story first, and the dull coating gives it kind of a glazed look, which I rather like. So it's not clear green, it's kind of a glazed green. So there you go. And good luck with your builds. I encourage you to try one of these. They're a lot of fun, and I think it results in a very satisfying model.